Today we're looking at Sector 5 and this one is an absolute doozy, ladies and gentlebeans. Let's break this down. So Sector 5, you can see I'm 141. I've missed one key. How dare they? Alright, let's just start off by taking a look at the feats, okay? Yeah, we'll take a look at the feats and we'll see what happens to be done. Alright, we need to defeat 10 enemies with Iden Versio. Super easy, don't worry about it. Foresight 300 times, Stagger 300 times. That's a lot of Foresight, that's a lot of Stagger. But don't worry, we can get it all done in basically one battle, isn't it marvelous? And we need to defeat 50 enemies with clone trooper units, which we can also get done in one battle, isn't it marvelous? Cheese, ladies and gentlemen, cheese. So, teams to look out for. Teams to look out for, and this is important this time. Obviously, crew nodes are useful, but not mandatory for this particular one. If you can find yourself a Phoenix node, tag it. Tag the Phoenix node. If not, if you cannot find a Phoenix node, do what I do. Find yourself a Star Killer node with Barriss Offie. Incredibly important for our cheesy goodness, okay? We're going to start off this video, though, with a little bit of kills with our clone troopers. The best way in my experience to get the kills with the clone troopers is to use the Iden Versio node. You'll know why. It's because Iden Versio, CG, they're being so kind. They're giving us nodes in sectors 4 and 5 with constant revives. As long as she's got allies around her, she will always revive, no matter what, unless you have, like, a means of preventing revives, but we're not going to do that, okay? Now, in order to make this work, or to help to make this work, I'm going to pair this up with our 300 Staggers and Foresights, okay? So we're not doing them at the same time, but we're doing them back-to-back, and we will be using consumables, okay? Consumables are massively important for this. So the ones that I used for this was the deployable cooling system cooldown, okay? This one over here, essentially every time you gain a buff, there's a chance for you to reduce your cooldowns by 15%. That's so valuable for the Foresight and the Stagger. I was also using something to give myself a whole bunch of additional health. I think I don't have another one here, but essentially it was giving me 110% additional max health, and I was using an additional speed booster, an overcharged speed booster, which is giving me 50% additional speed plus an additional 20 base, okay? I used those. We're not going to win this battle, and then after it, we're going to be doing our deployable cooling systems with the Foresights and the Staggers, okay? So we're not winning the node. We're holding on to it to keep use of our consumables, all right? Got that? Great. Next up, what are we going to do as far as data discs are concerned? So this one is a little bit different, ladies and gentlebeans. We're not looking to really hurt the enemy team. We don't want to destroy them. We want to focus on being able to ramp our offense and just constantly defeat Iden Versio, all right? With that in mind, you do not want to let the enemy take turns. So, this is the data disk setup that I'm using for this particular battle, okay? We've got Volatile Accelerator. A little bit important to have that just to make sure that we are going to defeat Iden when she takes turns, because she's going to get a bunch of dots on her. It's going to reduce her health. Then we're getting Voluntary Vanguard because we are going to be taking in Malak as a taunting unit, and you want them attacking him, not anybody else. Unstable Decelerator. We're going to be stripping away turn meter as much as we can. 2 of those. We've got a Ruthless Swiftness, and then we're stacking Ruthless Offense for this. All right, because we want to be ramping up the damage that we are doing over time. And this is the team that I'm using. Rex lead with Tech, Fives, Cody, and Malak. So we're going in against the boss node. We want to make sure that we can absorb the damage from the opening turn. Iden is always going to start with 100% turn meter, so with that Voluntary Vanguard, she's only going to be able to attack Malak. So when she does that AoE and that mass assist, essentially everybody's going to get feared because, you know, they're critting Malak thanks to the vulnerable that's on there. Everybody should survive thanks to the tech that we've got out there. Everybody's feared, nobody's dying. Fantastic. Next up, we want to get rid of the taunt off Shore Trooper. We'll do that just by killing him. So swiftly go over there. Or we could just roll out the bomb. They will revive a couple of times at the start. Now we're just focusing on Iden. Remember, every time the enemy drops below 100% max health, we are going to be ramping offense. You do want your Malak using Life Drain at least 3 times to get him up there. Because each time he does that, he's going to be becoming more tanky and dealing more damage. You can look to get those stacks of translation up with your characters, all right? Don't worry about using stuff like aerial advantage and form up. You do want to get that 3 stacks of translation. Cody over here has got a mass assist available to him, which is really nice because it's obviously going to give you attacks out of turn. It's going to give you kills with clone troopers, that sort of business, and it generates TM as well. Fives is over here is gaining additional TM as well when enemies are attacking. And with Rex's lead, we're gaining TM whenever we get crit, I believe, or something like that. So this is just the setup phase. The enemy shouldn't really be taking any turns past this point. We're looking now to just build up that stacks of translation across our clones and just focus on defeating Iden. Remember, she's going to revive as long as she has allies, and when she's reviving, she's going back up to 100% health. Then when we are defeating her, she's obviously dropping below 100% health, and we are getting those kills. Unfortunately, we can't really full auto this. You could probably try to basic auto it once it gets to a point, but I don't really think that's the most ideal way unless you can get to a point that your basics are constantly one-tapping Iden, okay? Because you do have to worry about the survivability of people like Malak, unfortunately. So you do need to occasionally use stuff like Life Drain, and I actually use Fives' call to assist, calling in tech later once I've ramped up enough damage. So you can see I'm getting quite a lot of kills here. It gets to a point where people like Tech are going to be one-tapping on a basic. Obviously, Rex can form up, giving additional TM to his allies. You can actually taunt with Fives. Depending on how tanky your Fives is, how well he's modded, how much relic levels he's got on him, you can actually taunt with him all the time. And that means you'll be able to call to assist. You'll be able to start ramping up his translation. Now, I didn't realize this until much later. I was more focusing on making sure that I don't lose any of my clone allies. But it got to a point, you could see Tech over there is doing like 200,000 damage on a basic. It's actually insane. We've got lots of aerial advantages, obviously, because we've got that deployable cooling systems going. It's slowly reducing our cooldowns right now. We're not gaining a bunch of buffs at the minute, unfortunately, so it's not triggering too often. You see, I quite nearly lose Malak a couple of times here. But again, thanks to that life drain, we're able to build back up. This is where I start taunting by the looks of things. I start throwing that taunt over there on Fives because I was getting a bit worried that Malak might die. And if Malak dies, makes your life a little bit harder. What I also realized, and this is quite pivotal, is that Tech's first special, the heal, actually applies a couple of buffs. And I should have noticed this sooner. But if you apply that and put it on your characters, they will gain stealth and they'll gain a few other feats, few other buffs, which is actually super useful because with deployable cooling systems in place, that's going to be decreasing their cooldowns. So you can actually spread it around all of your allies, and that means they're going to be decreasing cooldowns more frequently. So you can use things like the mass assist on Cody more frequently, which is, again, you're getting attacks out of turn, you're getting additional kills with your clone troopers, and obviously ramping up more and more offense. So I do recommend you actually start using that first special with Tech quite frequently, just to help with everybody else's cooldowns, and overall it's actually quite useful in keeping your clones alive. You could also use it to keep your Fives alive. You can see Tech over here doing like 300,000-400,000 damage on a basic, absolutely massive. And that's basically it. You just run the clock down. If you are ready to kill everybody off, then kill them off with an AoE at the end. I did that accidentally, but I'd already done my previous feats. I find this to be the best way of farming your kills. You can get 50 kills in this, no problem. 10 minutes is more than enough time to get that done. So I'm just going to skip ahead a bit. You can see I got it all the way down to 1 minute. So that was 9 minutes worth of farming. Then I accidentally used an AoE and killed everybody. However, in that time, during that 9 minutes, it was more than enough for me to actually get 50 kills with my clone troopers. Smashing. Now, we are still using that same consumable set to do our Foresight and our Stagger in one battle, okay? Like I said, there is a video by Tripolysis, I think his name is. He's an absolutely fantastic, cheesy Conquest Galaxy of Heroes content creator. I will link his video down below. He does a really good guide on how to use Kira lead with Han and GMY, Krennic and Sabine to get Staggers and Foresights done in one battle against a Phoenix node. Now, I didn't have a Phoenix node, but I was able to adapt his guide, so full credit to Tripolysis for actually coming up with this guide. Fantastic, well done, amazing bit of cheese. I've adapted it and got it to work over here on a Barriss Offie node, and I'm sure it can work on other nodes. Now, again, it's very important that you have that same data disk setup. You don't want anything with Amplify Agony there ramping your damage. You don't want anything ramping damage at all. So take off everything that's going to ramp damage, keep on Volatile Accelerator, and throw a bunch of unstable decelerators on there, okay? So you're looking not to deal damage per se, but to just land debuffs. So you keep the Volatile Accelerator. We're going to take off all of the Amplify Agonies, and you're looking for things like Unstable Decelerator, okay? We want to try and slow down the enemy. If I can find out where my decelerator is. There we go, a couple of Unstable Decelerators. If you have it, I think actually Evasive Technique, this one here, Evasion up at the start of the turn, I think it's actually broken, because I had this data disk on and I didn't see my Evasion up triggering. I mean, maybe I was wrong, maybe I wasn't just paying attention, but hey. So get yourself Unstable Decelerator if you can. You do not need to have Voluntary Vanguard, but you can if you like, all right? Now, again, if you've got something like an Epic Consumable boost to boost your speed, throw that on there with consumables. Obviously, we need deployable cooling systems, anything to make you tankier, and if you've got something to boost your speed, it'll make your lives a lot easier. It's this. It is a slight variation. He was using Han Solo, but I find you don't need Han Solo to make this work, so I threw in Shack T, okay? So thanks to all those unstable thanks to the consumables that I'm using, I've got the speed boost, I've got a fast Shack T going out here, and what we're looking to do is we are just looking to get Grandmaster Yoda to take a turn. So I'm going to use the second special, calling in Grandmaster Yoda to assist. He's obviously going to gain, 40% TM, taking a turn, spread buffs, that's going to be decreasing the cooldowns, and then we've got AoEs available. Those AoEs will be casting Stagger across the enemy team. Another AoE from Krennic and an AoE from Kira. All of these are essentially doing AoE staggers across the board. GMY is able to do an AoE Foresight across the board, which is incredibly useful. And then you can use Shack T to place additional buffs on GMY. So when he spreads, he's spreading even more buffs, which is great. Right now, everybody's got crit hit immunity. So we do actually need to cleanse off that crit hit immunity. We don't actually want that on there because when we crit the enemy team, Xaereth will be healing them and keeping them alive. So you pair that with your Ruthless Swiftness. When we take them below 100% health and they just heal up back to the top, we're constantly gaining additional TM, okay? The enemy is also going to always stay alive. I didn't quite realize this until a little bit later, but essentially we should almost always have 3 sources of AoE Stagger available to us with Kira, Krennic, and Sabine, and GMY is able to spread out Foresight, which keeps us alive. As you can see, boom, look at all those buffs. Not only are those buffs keeping us alive with the Foresight, they're also obviously working for the feat and decreasing the cooldowns of the rest of our allies. You could put this on full auto. I don't think I did for a lot of it. I waited. I wanted to see if there's a way of me getting rid of the crit hit immunity on the enemy team. And of course, Shack T's basic can do it, so I don't know why that didn't occur to me until later on. So I think we start cleansing it off, and Visas just happens to do a full odds dodge. How very dare she? I think she is actually an evasion mechanic character. Yes, she is actually. She's definitely an evasion mechanic character. So as you can see, they don't really take many turns. The only person that is a bit of an issue is Starkiller, because Starkiller can counterattack. So you see, I put it on full auto here, and we are just spreading debuffs. You don't have to worry. Every single time, your allies will use their AoE staggers. Every single time. And GMY will always buff spread. So you don't have to worry about, are they going to use the right move? They'll always use the right move. I believe I lose Kira here. My Kira is like gear 8. She gets counterattacked by Starkiller, I believe, when she doesn't have Foresight, and unfortunately just happens to bite the dust. But this is just an absolutely fantastic way of getting these feats done. You can also do it quite effectively on a Mandalorian node, I find, going up against like a Bo-Katan lead, OG Bo-Katan lead Mandalorians. They're quite tanky as well, but obviously you do have to worry about the counterattack, so you need a source of stagger there, or daze, sorry, not stagger, to make sure that the enemy can't counterattack. I honestly wish I'd put that on this one to stop Starkiller from counterattacking and killing Kira. But it doesn't matter, because even in this short amount of time, I was able to get all of the staggers done, all of the Foresights done as well, because we're just constantly doing AoE staggers. Nothing the enemy can actually do about it. Now, I did try using a EP lead Mara Jade setup here, but unfortunately the shock is preventing the healing, and you don't want that happening because you need the enemy to stay alive. As long as they're staying alive, you are able to constantly deal damage. This is why you don't want anything ramping your offense. You don't want any Amplify Agonies or anything like that. All right, so instead of talking, we're just going to skip ahead so you can all see how it gets done. All the way down to the end there. Look, we've got 20 seconds left. The enemy is still all at full health. If they actually took a turn, they'd die thanks to all the dots that they've got on them. But we are constantly decreasing their turn meter. They've all got staggers. All these AoEs are just taking them back and taking them back and taking them back and taking them back. It's a beautiful thing to see. And yeah, countdown comes in. Xaereth very nearly takes a turn there, which is rather funny. But there we go. We lost the battle, as it were, but it was enough to get us our 300 Foresight and 300 Stagger. Now, you can just get the Iden Versio kills organically as you go through. However, for me to get a bunch of kills in one battle, I went in with a Thrawn lead, and this is using Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agonies once again. With a Thrawn lead, you've got some fun nuances here, because you're able to use his tactical advantage, or whatever it is, tactical supremacy, is it? His granted leadership ability to essentially cleanse all the debuffs on yourself, gain 50% turn meter, or I'm using it to just skip a turn. So I've got Wat Tambor in here. I think I just throw the tank tech over on Iden to make sure that she can always cleanse off. Then Lord Vader takes a turn, he does an AoE crush, everybody takes a bunch of damage, nearly dies, and then we can use Scout Trooper to call Iden in to assist. She gets one kill there. We'll just put the weapons tech on someone or health tech on someone. Looks like Thrawn goes, so we just pass the turn with Thrawn. And then Iden gets to do a nice big AoE, boop, blap, and she kills 5 people in one hit. So she's killed 6 people so far. 6 people. I don't think I managed to get another kill with Iden, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good way of getting things done. Immediately getting 6 kills in one battle. That means 2 battles against Imperial troopers, you'll be done and dusted. Alternatively, just use an Iden lead and you'll eventually get the kills as you progress. So that's the sector feats. Let's take a look at the boss nodes then. So, the mini boss node against Iden Versio, we need to win with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon surviving. Now I'm pretty certain you can't do that with the consumable. I didn't check because I had Dark Trooper Moff Gideon last time. It's not particularly difficult, but we will go through how to get it done. Again, Volatile Accelerator, Amplify Agony. Just use the tried and trusted CLS with whatever you're trying to use. Drop out C-3PO, throw in Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. Have fun. Okay, so obviously, remember guys, Iden Versio, as long as she's got allies, she will always revive. So make sure you're focusing the damage across everywhere else. They do have the Endless Ranks modifier, which means they are going to be reviving themselves a couple of times, but ultimately, once you start killing them and generating quite a bit of turn meter, it's not so bad. So just focus on the weaker characters. I'm going for Death Trooper here at the minute. You can see all the counterattacks from CLS is causing us to essentially chew through the enemy very, very quickly. Boop-a-boop-a-boop, everybody dying. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. Mine is Relic 7 or something like that, but I imagine you'll be able to do this with a low gear Moff Gideon. Now, obviously, I did lose my character there, Chewie, because of the counterattacks, but Iden's going to die, and that's all we really need to do. It's pretty straightforward, guys. Obviously, you could just use him with an Imperial Trooper team or your Lord Vader team if you have it, right? Now, I'm not going to show you how to do a victory with light side units. We've just seen CLS can do it, right? So I'm not going to waste my time or your time. Let's move swiftly on to the very final boss of the entire Conquest Sector. So we've got a Moff Gideon sector over here with his Imperial Remnant buddies. We need to win with dark side characters and a full squad of resistance units. Now, you don't need to survive, so even with relatively poor resistance teams, you can still do pretty good work. And it comes down to this invasive endings data disk. This data disk, phenomenal, guys, phenomenal. Makes your life an absolute breeze if you've got some pretty bad characters. So, still using Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agony, they are the core. Ignore the Deadly Momentum, we don't need that one. Just throw on as many Amplify Agonies and as you can. Yeah, so I've got Volatile Accelerator, 2, 3 Amplify Agonies, and Invasive Endings right now. Now, if you happen to have another Invasive Endings, which I don't think I do, but if you happen to have another one, absolutely throw it on there. Okay, so as I don't, I'm just going to put a Ruthless Swiftness on, like that, and sure, Fierce Persistence. Essentially, what happens with Invasive Endings, whenever one of your allies is defeated, Every enemy gets 5 damage over times and defense down for 2 turns. Can't be evaded, can't be resisted. So that is, what, 6 debuffs immediately, which is going to trigger your Amplifier Agonies and basically destroy the enemy team. All right? So even if you have very, very weak units, provided they don't all die to one big AoE, you will actually win the battle. Okay, use this for Tuscans in the previous sectors if you do not have that feat done yet and you've got terrible Tuscans. Okay, so obviously if you've got GL Ray, just use GL Ray and you'll have an absolute breeze of a time, but you don't need to. Okay, so I went in and I think I threw in JTR with BB-8 and R2-D2. You could throw in C-3PO. I believe I threw in Resistance Hero Finn and a really low gear Zori. Even low gear, it doesn't matter. All right, and away we go. So the great thing about this invasive endings, like I said, is that it doesn't matter how well geared your units are, provided you're not going up against something that takes reduced damage from percentage health effects, like Kylo Ren Unmasked or something like that, you should be absolutely fine. The enemy takes its first turn, we hit damage immunity over there on our JTR thanks to Zori Bliss. We're just going to call in BB-8 and we get the wonderful, wonderful things happening. Look at this. The AoE triggers from Dark Trooper and he destroys 3 units. Look at that, 130,000 damage on that AoE to some of our characters. But those 3 deaths are essentially going to put 15 dots on the enemy team, as well as putting defense down. Look at that, 204 dots. They take a couple of turns, they do die. We very nearly actually lose this, but it's absolutely okay in the end because they've got so many dots on them. JTR over there dodging quite well. They've killed another unit. What does that mean? It means everybody on the enemy team is getting a bunch of dots once again. Dots, dots, dots. And then it's just down to our good man BB-8, who does 1 attack, boom, and kills Dark Trooper. That was messy, but I was trying to use a bad team. So if you've got a good Zori team, good Finn team, GL Ray, you'll have no problem with winning with a squad of resistance units. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Sector 5. Officially done, officially dusted. We only have the global feats left to do, and I promise you we'll get them done as well very, very shortly. If this series was useful to you, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to push for 10k subs, and we are getting closer and closer each and every day. So support the channel so that I can support you in turn, and I will be the happiest bald man on YouTube. Maybe. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.